Hey guys, it's Mrs. Yeagle. This is chapter 4 of The Darkest Hour. And remember that in class we've been talking about how the author is using specific words and phrases to help us remember that we're in the past. And so as you read tonight and as you listen, think about maybe like the cultural references that the author uses to help us remember that it's 1943. Okay, page 38. Chapter 4. When I arrived at headquarters 3 months ago, all bright-eyed and green and ready to take down Adolf Hitler single-handedly, Major Harkin had brought me into the meeting room and launched into our very first briefing. It was right down to business for him, no time for chit-chat. And what was the first thing he drilled me on? Covert Ops level of crises. There are 5 levels total, ranging from the lowest infraction, a Class 5, and up to the highest, a Class 1. The lower crises will land you on desk duty for a week. That happened to Tilly a while back. She got slapped with a Class 5 for getting tailed by the Nazis and not shaking them off within a few blocks. And Harkin had her rearranging the weaponry and washing everyone's sheets for a week. In the grand scheme of things, though, a 4 or 5 aren't too bad. Now, a Class 2 or 3 are more severe. Let's say the Gestapo dragged you in for an interrogation. Even if you managed to get away, you'd have to retire an entire alias, not to mention getting quarantined at headquarters until Harkin deemed it safe for you to work above ground again. That's what happened to me a month after I arrived, a Class 3. As for a Class 1, Major Harkin hadn't uttered a word about it, except to tell me, if that happens, and it hasn't yet, you might as well hand in your resignation and swim back to Baltimore. I'd shivered then, just as I'm doing now. Filled with dread, I followed Tilly into the meeting room, ducking my head to avoid the ancient ceiling beams and take the seat next to her. Sabine is waiting for us there and lighting a tray of pillar candles that sit atop a monstrosity of a farm table with trunk-thick legs. A map of Europe hangs on the wall opposite us, dotted with pinheads to mark where our agents are located. Major Harkin strides into the room and ignores the abundance of chairs in front of him, opting to pace in front of the map. I drum my fingers on my knee. The silence is slowly choking me, and the question tumbles out of me before I can rein it back in. What happened in Reims, sir? Major Harkin grips the back of a chair, kneading the wood like baguette dough. When he speaks, I hear a tremor weaving through his voice. They're dead, he says finally. Dead? The shiver multiplies across my arms. He must mean our resistance contacts. We rely on them to act as our eyes and ears around town. Certainly not easy jobs, and there's always a risk that one of them might be compromised. I wonder if that's why Loren was here. Who's dead? Sabine asked. Is it Xavier? Terry? No, I'm not talking about the resistance. Major Harkin bows his head. 2 of our agents are gone, possibly 3. There are sharp intakes of breath around the room. 2 agents dead? Maybe 3? This is far beyond a Class 1. Which agents were killed? Tilly whispers. Major Harkin grips the chair harder, the veins in his hands pulsing. Margot and Agnes were fatally shot. Delphine has been arrested. Tilly goes chalk white, and Sabine does the same. My mind goes dizzy, spinning like I've ridden the county fair Ferris wheel too many times. The 3 of us may have been trained to keep our emotions trapped tightly inside our hearts, but all of that training has abandoned us now. When Tilly speaks again, she fights to steady her voice. The Nazis took Delphine? There's the smallest flicker of hope in her words. She's alive? For now, yes. That's the news that Loren has relayed to me, Harkin says. Silence falls over the room like a death shroud. Under the table, I squeeze Tilly's hand, but her fingers go limp next to mine. Delphine is one of our most seasoned agents. She's stationed in Vichy, the new seat of the French puppet government, but she stops in at headquarters every month to deliver supplies that the OSS has parachuted into the countryside. My mind flies back to the last time I saw her, just 2 weeks ago. She'd come to deliver our newest parcel, a pile of forged francs for bribe making, a dozen pistol pens, and a sack of potatoes to supplement our rations. But that wasn't all. In her usual Delphine way, she had brought small gifts for us, too. A precious flask of cognac for Harkin, a handkerchief full of summer berries for Sabine and me, and a Barbusse novel for Tilly. Despite their 10-year age gap, they had become fast friends at the boarding school that Tilly attended, and where Delphine worked as a literature teacher. What happened to Delphine? I say, asking the question burning on my tongue, on all of our tongues. Why were the three of them even sent to Reims? Because I sent them there, that's why, Harkin barks. His hands slam against the table so hard that the wood shudders. My teeth sink into my bottom lip. Should we give you a moment alone, sir? Do I look like I need a moment alone? He snaps. Just like that, he's wiped his face clean and replaced it with his usual mask. I called this meeting for a reason. Now listen here. Our agents were undertaking a special mission in Reims, a mission that Delphine had spearheaded under my direction. This is all highly classified, understood? The three of us bob our heads. Good, Harkin goes on. About 6 weeks ago, we received a message from the local resistance group in Reims. They believe that the Nazis have a secret operation in the works, one they've kept very hush-hush. The resistance in Reims had tried for months to mine more information about it, but they kept coming up empty, aside from one key piece of intelligence. His gaze flickers toward me. The Nazi code name for it was Operation Zerfall. A chill pinches my spine, and I hear Traverse cries echoing in my ears. I'll tell you about Zerfall. It'll change the course of the war. Zerfall, Sabine says, testing out the word. That's the German word for decay, is it not? Harkin nods. It is. What does this operation entail? Tilly asks. That's the question, isn't it? Harkin says with a drawn-out sigh. Could Zerfall be an airstrike? A U-boat attack? We were working around the clock, Delphine and I, but not getting anywhere, until Delphine made a discovery. She uncovered a very promising lead in the hotel room of a Nazi lieutenant general. How'd she manage that? I asked. Harkin strides to the corner table to pour himself some cognac, but at the last second he reaches for the wine, likely remembering who had brought him that cognac in the first place. He throws back a long sip. Delphine had befriended this general. Befriended. My mind quickly fills in the blanks. Harkin continues. She found a coded telegram that was intended for the Führer himself. It took a few more weeks for us to decipher it, but we did so with OSS help. The message said, Zerfall near completion, launch in August. Did the telegram mention anything else? Says Sabine. She scooted to the very edge of her seat, ready to process Harkin's words as soon as he utters them. Early August is a month and a half away. Our thoughts exactly. Delphine was convinced that she could discover more information if she went to Reims. That's where the Nazi lieutenant general she befriended had an office. Another sip of wine. She decided to break into it. She did what? Tilly blurts out. Harkin ignores her. I didn't like the idea, but hundreds of thousands of Allied lives could depend on this one lead, and Delphine was sure she could sneak in and out without anyone noticing. I sent Margot and Agnes with her. Margot to keep watch, and Agnes to distract the guards if necessary. It was supposed to be a simple black bag job. Break in, grab the goods, and go. After it was all over, they would radio Lorraine or me. That was 2 days ago. I thought maybe they had trouble getting to a safe house, but he trails off and doesn't finish. He doesn't have to. Tilly hiccups, and I squeeze her hand again, but I know that we're thinking the same thing. Delphine may be alive, but for how long? She could have days, maybe weeks. She might even survive a month if she can withstand the torture. But if she breaks before then, the Germans will easily put a bullet through her head. I want to tell Tilly that everything will be all right, but even I can't lie that well. 2 agents are dead, and Delphine might soon join them. Nothing has been all right since this war started. Though maybe we can change that. I look up at Harkin. We need to go to Reims, sir. I know it's against protocol, but we can't leave Delphine to the Nazis. She knows too much. Lucy's right, Tilly jumps in. I glance at her to find iron in her eyes instead of tears. We can be ready to leave in half an hour. Sabine crosses her arms. If you go to Reims, you'll be walking into your own murder. The Germans will have dozens of soldiers guarding Delphine's cell. Then what do you propose, I say? That we sit here and do nothing? That's not what I said. I was merely pointing out that we shouldn't act in haste, as you've done tonight with Monsieur Travers. Her gaze cuts me like the knife in my rosary, but it softens when she turns to Tilly. I'm sorry, Matilda, but we must be realistic. I very much respect Delphine, but if the Nazis have captured her, then the question must be asked. What if she is already dead? I wish I could yank out Sabine's tongue. We can't assume that. And you shouldn't assume she's alive, Sabine replies. Enough of this, Harkin roars, making all of us jump. Are you two finished flapping your lips yet, or shall I wait? The heat cools from Sabine's eyes, but not by much. My apologies, Major. I'm sorry, I mumble through clenched teeth. What are we going to do about Delphine? Tilly asks at last. Can we reach out to Betty and Virginia? How about Georgiana or Germaine? She asks, referring to the other agents of covert ops. We could recall them and have them help us. You could send them a coded radio message, I add, pointing at the Type 3 Mark II transceiver tucked in the corner that we used to contact our agents, as well as our OSS colleagues stationed in London. Only Harkin knows how to use the device, but he's been teaching Sabine how to operate it too. They're all embedded too deeply, Major Harkin mutters. I need them in the field right now. Betty is making headway in Zurich, and Virginia is too valuable to take out of Brussels. The same with Georgiana and Germaine. It's taken months to get everyone in place, and I can't get most of them out without jeopardizing their covers. He takes in a long breath and slowly releases it. That leaves it to us to find Delphine. My head snaps to his, as do Tilly and Sabine's. We'll be outnumbered, Sabine starts, but Major Harkin raises his hand to quiet her. Like Blaise said, Delphine knows too much. We can't risk the Germans finding out about OSS or covert ops. If she tells them what she knows, it would put everything we've done in danger. It's not only our lives on the line. It's the lives of thousands of Allied soldiers who need us to cut the Nazis' feet from under them. Delphine wouldn't break, says Tilly. Everyone can break, Major Harkin says darkly. That's the truth. There's the suicide pill, though, says Sabine. She would have used it by now. The Nazis must have found it and disposed of it, Harkin replies. So that's that. We're going to Reims. We have to determine if she gave up anything during interrogation and if we're now compromised. If we can rescue her too, all the better. I'll get my things straight away, Tilly says in a rush, but Harkin raises his hand again. We're not leaving tonight. There aren't any trains running, and we don't exactly have a car at our disposal. We'll leave in the morning. Once we reach the city, we'll ascertain the situation first. If there's an opening to free Delphine, we'll take it. He glances at Tilly. If not, we'll bring enough powder to blow the jail entirely. Tilly freezes. Sir, it'll be our last option. If it does come to that, I'll be the one to light the fuse. The thought of taking out one of our own, even if it's mercy to give her a quick death instead of one of the Nazis have in store for her, it sickens my stomach. But we joined covert ops knowing what we were signing up for. If we were in Delphine's shoes, we'd choose a bomb too over the Nazis' little games. When do we depart? Sabine says. We'll take the noon train to Reims. Make sure you're packed well before then. I sit straight up. He had said we, hadn't he? Or was that a slip of his tongue? Major Harkin seemed to sense the question I want to ask him. You won't be coming with us, Blaise. You'll stay here at headquarters to keep watch. That's another punch to my gut. But the decision is made, especially considering what happened tonight. You may have topped your class, Blaise, but you're not living up in a training exercise anymore. My throat grows tight with shame, and I look down at my hands that failed me tonight with Travers. I don't reply to Harkin. What would I say to him? One botched mission is forgivable, perhaps even expected, but two? This isn't something my instructors had prepared me for. Tilly clears her throat. Sir, we may want Lucy with us in Reims. It might not be a bad idea to have a lookout. Major Harkin waves her off. The three of you are dismissed. When we don't move fast enough for his liking, he shouts, "That's an order!" We leap out of our seats, but when I reach the doorway, I have to turn back. How am I supposed to stay here at headquarters when Delphine is in prison? Even if I went out as a lookout, like Tilly said, I could offer something to their mission. Sir? Major Harkin elbows me out of the room and slams the door on me just an inch from my nose. I stumble back, but Tilly's there to catch me. Are you all right? She whispers. I straighten my shirt, hold my chin high. No tears, I tell myself. I'm fine, I say, but both she and I know that's a lie.